Hi, my name is Alex Mang, and I work as, well, my business card says CEO, so I guess I work as a CEO for KeyTicket Solutions. I run the company, but I see myself mostly as a cloud architect and software developer, which is what I do on a daily, regular basis, and at night sometimes as well. What I like best about Dapr, emphasis on best, is its complete nature of pluggable components. And don't get me wrong, there are other technologies which have this approach where you plug in components and you swap components by effectively swapping technologies, yet not doing any changes in your code whatsoever. But the way Dapr has been designed from the ground up to put the major emphasis on the microservices designed architectures and have pluggable components and leave any of the boilerplate code on the Dapr side means that for me as a software developer, I never have to worry about swapping technologies, changing technologies, or even more so, tweaking and testing my application's performance when it is out in the trenches or when I'm doing load scale. I vividly remember that one of the problems we faced and solved easily with Dapr when we were working on one of the on-premises projects for one of our customers, a large one. And in all fairness, they were very concerned about the licenses that we would bring in with the dependencies on the technologies that we would suggest and provide. Now, there were effectively two major caveats to take into account in that scenario. One of them was licensing costs, and the other one was performance, especially in terms of the scalability of their end product. So we had to effectively figure out what technology we would choose. But changing technologies, as you obviously know, whether it's about PubSub, storage, or anything else, can have major implications on development time, and a steep learning curve also can bring in a lot of technical debt. So by using Dapr, we effectively solved that problem because we offloaded anything that had to do with rewriting code from the ground up and spending a lot of time redesigning the same applications yet again by just effectively having a single YAML file, which at the end of the day is a text file. Super easy to change, super easy to update, and super easy to test at the same time. So by using Dapr, we solved the problem that we faced, and literally we did it in probably less than an afternoon. I kid you not. An important learning moment for us when we started using Dapr was at the point where we already pushed Dapr to a production workload. What I mean by that was that even though everything was working fine, both in the dev environments and in the dev environments that we created in the cloud, so both on-prem and in the cloud, worked seamlessly well in the testing environments, which are like pre-production, but the application failed in the production environment. And every time we were pushing an update, the Dapr sidecar container wouldn't get injected. So it was quite stressful to figure out why something doesn't work in something that seemingly looks the same environment-wise. Turned out, and this is something that we have learned by the trenches, is that sometimes we were looking for logs in the wrong place. Sometimes Kubernetes actually has a major say and a major word by the way it is set up and configured. And Dapr, even though it seemingly doesn't do its job, actually is forced by other components, especially in Kubernetes, that might prevent it from doing its job. So make sure that you configure Dapr correctly. Make sure that you document your logs and you document your Kubernetes cluster, especially if you're deploying your application to a cluster that you're not responsible for. Would I use Dapr again in a similar project? Let's think about it. Well, given the fact that we already are working on 13 different projects and they all have Dapr in sprinkles in one way or another, I would say yes. But there's one thing to add to this. Dapr alone, even though it's a fantastic technology, can actually be enhanced and improved by using other products such as Conductor, Catalyst, which are products that you may not have heard of, but they actually emphasize the importance of Dapr, and at the same time, they improve the productivity, the reliability, and overall the availability that you might get with a Dapr-enabled application. My tip for a new Dapr user would be to think outside the box. If you have been accustomed to designing free tier application like those pesky web backend and API applications or database applications, and try to think outside the box. Try to redesign your application in terms of the microservices design principles. And I know if you're reading Sam Newman's book and other books, especially designed for microservices and microservices-based architectures, Many of those theoretical concepts are going to feel very difficult to grasp. But here's the deal: Dapr makes everything super easy and very easy to implement within your application almost from day zero. However, sometimes you might have struggles and questions, and the documentation, as good as it is and as extensive as it is, doesn't always answer all of your questions, which, again, my tip for a new Dapr user would be to head over to the Discord channel, ask your question over there, and make sure that you also answer other people's questions. Stronger communities and stronger bonds make the technology overall stronger as well, in my opinion. Kind of is a two tip for one, isn't it?